Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Today we're joined by Tracy Desjardins, a national board certified health and wellness coach and the international best-selling author of the Diet-Free Diva. I love that title, by the way. That's so awesome. Tracy has transformed her extensive fitness background into a coaching career focused on holistic wellness for women, specializing in recovery from emotional eating and the harmful impacts of diet culture. Tracy brings a compassionate approach to helping women find sustainable peace with food and their bodies. In her book, she shares her journey from an overweight childhood to developing a mind, body, spirit strategy that empowers women to live freely as their best selves without the constraints of restrictive diets. And we all know about those restrictive diets. I'm sure they're like, what, fad diets, what's the next cosmopolitan diet on there in the article? There's all these different types of diets, right? So thank you so much, Tracy, for being on my show today. I'm excited to talk to you.
Gina, I love your energy. This is going to be fantastic. I'm so honored to be here on the show with you today.
Yes, I'm excited too, because before I hit record, literally Tracy and I were just talking about everything. And I'm like, why am I not hitting record right now? This is important stuff that people need to know. So it's just an honor to have you on. But if you can go ahead and just start by sharing your journey into the world of holistic wellness and what inspired you to actually focus specifically on women's health.
Yeah. Oh, such a good question. I'd love to share, and I'll make my story somewhat brief. In my book, The Diet-Free Diva, I do share a lot more about my early beginnings with the problem. I'll just say the problem. So I turned 54 this year, and way back in 1982, when I was 12 years old, I started my first diet as a slightly overweight little girl, and that is really where a problem began that I didn't realize was beginning, that led me into a warpath for literally like 3+ decades, just trying to restart the restrictive plan over again, which evolved. That it was always a level of, I have to get used to feeling hungry. I have to get used to not wanting food, not thinking that food tastes good. I have to constantly wrestle with this willpower thing in order to lose weight. So I was really up and down. I was kind of like the person that would be up and down, maybe like 15 pounds, up and down, up and down, up and down. And what's really interesting, Gina, is before age 12, when I started dieting, I was this free-spirited, happy kid, and I wore the plus size clothing, and I really didn't care. Like, life was good. I made friends. I was confident in who I was. That's a big part of this. And then as soon as I decided that, I started to catch on with what society admired in women's bodies and all of that. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to fix myself, just like a lot of people do. And I speak to women because I work with women, but a lot of what we're going to say today, my husband has said before, this applies to men too. But when we feel like we need to change based on what we learn that society admires, that's a really challenging place. And that is what began my belief system that really held me down for a really, really long time. Fast forward, I wasn't really good at sports in school, but I discovered aerobic exercise in my early teen years. You could jump up and down to loud music and feel great afterwards. And there was no need to be perfect. I was onto something. I really caught on and loved that. Became a certified group fitness instructor and then a personal trainer. And I just truly love exercise because you create something with people, you create energy. And there's a way that life gets good when we're blasting music and just moving our bodies. And that actually saved me in one respect, but it caused a problem in another because I used exercise to compensate for the binge eating disorder that I developed from the restrictive dieting. And that was really a really hellacious place to be, because when I had binge eating disorder, nobody really talked about that. Now it's more, you hear about it now. You didn't really hear about emotional eating and binge eating disorder. You heard about anorexia and bulimia. I didn't have either one of those. So in my mind, I was weak. In my mind, I couldn't stop the pig outs. And I really developed a very harsh inner language towards myself, and my self-esteem went down the toilet. So that, like, confident younger person went dormant in my war with food and body. And I did that for decades, and nobody really knew about it. Nobody knew about it. And it was really terrible. And I talked to a lot of women that have similar pathways that started at like 12, 13 when we began dieting. So I had to write about it. I had to write about it. And I love having these conversations with other women that understand this.
Yes, I was one of them. I think I was maybe fifth grade though. Fifth grade, my mom would give me lunch money for school. We had those hot lunches. This was in the 90s. Oh, let's see. I would go and just pocket that money. Wouldn't eat. Skip it. And then I was just won't eat because I wanted to look a certain way. I developed at a very young age. I started my period, I believe I was maybe 3 days shy of my ninth birthday. And I remember that was traumatic. I was like, Mom, I may have started my period. I see some blood on my underwear. She's like, what? But then she said, you know what? I started at 9 years old too. So maybe it was a genetic thing, but I started developing breasts early on. And then I just was very tall at that time too. Not anymore. I wish I was. and and so I developed fast, but then I was comparing myself to these teeny weeny girls that were just super petite, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be like that, but genetically my body is not that. I was taller, more muscular build, and so I went ahead and started doing those Cindy Crawford workout videos every day, suffering that because my sister, like I was mentioning to you before, she was a model, 6 feet tall, 10 years older than me. So I looked up to her. Different, I don't know where she got her different genes, but I always looked up to her and I was always trying to work out hard, work out hard. And then it got worse in then junior high, because then really we're starting to compare each other. And then the mean girl era, everyone like, oh, why are you wearing that? It doesn't look good. And so you felt more self-conscious. And then you see movies on TV, like, oh, am I supposed to look like that on TV? And then you start looking at yourself and you start doubting yourself, like, oh my gosh, why am I looking like this? Why? And then you look at the Victoria's Secret. I mean, the list goes on, right? So it wasn't until, and I shared this with you earlier, that I got a relationship in my senior year of high school, but he loved to feed me. We went out to restaurants, we did everything together. But then my weight was really packing on and I was unaware of my weight. And it wasn't until a friend of my mom's was over at our house one day and he was saying, you're really looking fat. And then I'm like, what? And then I just was comfortable in my clothes. I didn't care. Someone loved me. I wasn't trying to impress anybody at that time anymore. And then that's when weight really started affecting me because that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to look a certain way all the time. And so that's what I did. It's horrible.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. I mean, another very relatable story. And it's if you don't mind me diving in, when
Yeah.
I work with women now, whether it's in group settings or one-on-one, and in my book, step one, I start with, tell me your story. Because we need to be able to look back at where we've come from. And I gave you a really, really brief, watered down example of my story, but anyone listening in, you have a story too, and it's very valid. And that needs to be lovingly embraced and examined because there are clues there. There are little nuggets of wisdom in our story. And looking back at where we've come from, I call it your food story. We have to be able to do that before we can move ahead with strategies that are actually sustainable. And you said something, Gina, about weight. And if you don't mind, I'd love to just speak for just a second about weight. And similar to what you're talking about, there was so much emphasis on weight. And I was never the kid that was in that range that I was supposed to be. I was the healthy kid. I love to bike and roller skates. I was kind of, I have an athletic build. Still to this day, I'm strong and I'm not within that what I'm supposed to weigh. So for me, I dove into Weight Watchers for a time being, and that weight that they gave me, I fought and I played the rules hard. And you give me something to follow with the goal and like get out of my way. So that's what I did with food, and that works in a lot of great ways with other endeavors in life. But when it comes to our health and our weight and our bodies, when we try to fight with it to reach a number, then we're alone on an island. Because a lot of these pathways, if you follow the rules and the restrictions, you'll get there. And I lost count of how many times I got to 130. 130 is not sustainable for me. It doesn't make sense. I could get there again. I'm not willing to do that because I know what that takes. My body doesn't really belong there. But I was told, Tracy, 130 is your magic number. That's when you're going to be acceptable. That's when you're rocking your best life. And that's not true. But I believed that for so long, Gina. And right now I'm looking at you right now and I don't even know what I weigh because I don't get on the scale at home. I don't get on the scale at the doctors. And I have the clients that I work with, they don't either. We're not required to, by the way. And it's just liberating to think about like, well, how can I start taking best care of myself rather than fight for that number?
Right. Oh my gosh, you reminded me of my Jenny Craig days. Even working for them for so many years in my 20s, there was that BMI and then also that range where you're supposed to be at. I think mine said 113 pounds. I don't even think I was born 113 pounds. But like seriously, to like 150 something. Okay, 150 is more realistic, yes. But I was like, where did they get this number? But I used to be my skinniest according to the number on the scale. I don't weigh myself either. I don't like to. And even when I go to the doctors, I said, don't tell me I'm not looking. Don't tell me I'm not. You can do it for your charts, but I am not looking. Don't tell me. I tell them right away. But I used to be 129. That was the lowest I've ever saw on the scale in my life, all the way up to 207 pounds. That's a big range like there. So I've experienced weight in all from the lowest to the highest for myself. And I feel so much better being liberated from the scale. I don't want to look at the scale. It's there because my husband uses it, but I don't need to use it. I don't need to use it. I go by how I feel. If I'm feeling a little sluggish, maybe I'm not drinking enough water. Maybe my body's too stiff. Maybe I need to take a walk outside. Like I need to move my body, get that energy out. I don't beat myself up anymore, Tracy, like I used to. I really feel so content where I'm at. And I'm happy. I'm so happy.
You just said something really powerful, and I'd love to just like press pause on what you said because it was really good. You said, I wrote it down, I go by how I feel. Now, there's so much genius in that. And anybody listening in that's like, well, yeah, but I'm supposed to weigh this. I understand that because we have been so, and we're still convinced on a daily basis from things that we hear that, thin is in and it comes in different splashes of sexy out there, but the message is still out there. Well, you need to be thinner, thin is in. Rather than like, how do we feel in our bodies? And that's a lot of the work that I do with women. Let's kind of shift the focus. Anybody wanting to lose weight, I get it. It is important that we feel good in our bodies. And to be quite honest, because we have limited time on this show today, I have found how to eat that makes me have great energy and thrive in a way that's not restrictive. It doesn't make me miserable. It still includes my favorite treats, and I can live this way. Every single one of my clients, Gina, that is what they want. They want to figure out what they can trust and what is, air quotes, livable. What can I do that I can live with? Day by day by day, including ice cream in the summer, including treats, without feeling like I'm alone on an island and I can't have what everybody else is having. So what you said is again, it's such genius. I go by how I feel. Now we're on to something. But we need to understand how to recognize that and how to be able to connect via mind, body, spirit. Well, how even just to notice how we're feeling in our bodies. I never knew how to do that. I just knew how to wrestle with mine to change it. Then I might consider noticing how it felt great to put on a size 2. I can get to a size 2, but I turn into an idiot to get there because I'm so obsessed. I don't want that. I'm not a 2. Forget it. So I go by how I feel. That is new female wisdom.
Oh, I
It is.
love that. Yeah, yeah. It yeah. And have you heard of something called intuitive eating as well?
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
really tapping into my intuitive self and really going by what does Gina feel like eating today? And sometimes if I don't want breakfast, because we're conditioned, you must eat breakfast at a certain time, you must eat lunch at a certain time, you must eat dinner at a certain time, throw that garbage out the door.
Yeah.
How does your body feel? Do you want something? Like this morning, what I wanted a protein shake. I'm satisfied. That's all I wanted. I don't want anything else. Yeah, sometimes I would want like an egg or so. I will eat it. So I really like listen to my what my body wants. So if you can go ahead and talk a little bit about intuitive eating and what that means to you.
I love it. It means everything to me now in my life. But there was a time, Gina, and anyone listening in, if you're like, I heard about this intuitive eating stuff, and I'm trying to lose weight, and I'm up and down, up and down. I can't trust my decisions with food. What do you mean, eat intuitively? That was me for a long time. When I was in the binge, I'm sorry, diet restrict, eat super healthy, and then I would go off the rails not knowing why. I didn't trust my decisions with food. I only trusted when I muscled up the motivation to start again on Monday, that kind of thing. So I remember reading the principles of intuitive eating back when, and I thought, well, that's just not for me because I really can't just trust. If I trust my decisions with food, I'm going to eat donuts all day long because I love donuts. People get hung up there, and I want to just share that I'm going back to what you said. I go by how I feel. That is exactly the pathway that I coach my clients on, because when we make some sense with how we want to feel in our bodies and what kind of energy we want to have, because when we have abundant energy, we can do the things that we want to do in our lives, then we're not going to eat donuts all day long because that's going to make us feel horrible. So it's almost like learning a new language. Notice how I slowed down and toned my voice just naturally here, because it's a new belief system about food, and it takes time and it takes patience and it takes a willingness. I call it putting on special glasses to quiet the noise and to block what you see that everybody else is doing. Intermittent fasting, that person's doing keto, this person's vegan. We have to be able to quiet that noise and stay in our lane. And I really believe that we can all become intuitive eaters, but it does require some support with someone like me, frankly, to help you start to trust your own decisions with food and to notice what foods love you back, what foods digest well for you, what foods bring you abundant energy. Right before the show today, Gina, I walked in my kitchen and there was something I was managing this morning that was a little stressful. And I like to have some vegetables for lunch. Today, I didn't want vegetables. I wanted a grilled cheese sandwich. That's what I made. And I'm sitting here because I've done that before. I know grilled cheese with the sourdough bread. I like the taste. It agrees with me. And I'm showing up with good energy with you here on the show. I didn't judge. No, Tracy, we can't have bread. Wait a minute. That's what I really wanted for lunch today. And to me, that's peace. To me, that's light. There's wisdom there. When we start to trust our appetite signals, I work a lot in that zone as well. Learning to trust our own appetite, but to be intuitive with our decisions, not just with food, but about other holistic areas of self-care in our life that lead to this little thing, like what you said. I go by how I feel. We all want to feel good in our bodies and we want to have good energy. And how we get there is different and unique for all of us.
Yeah, someone, or maybe it was a meme that I saw where it's a picture of a food item and it says, if I eat this, how will it make me feel afterward? And then I'm like, oh, that's a great question. I should always ask myself, how would I feel afterward? If I really want it, then I'll feel good because I really wanted it. Like that grilled cheese sandwich. That sounds amazing right now, actually. um, but really go by how you are feeling. And I've gone through a lot with even emotional eating in my past before, where, and I told you I was unaware. I was an unaware eater, emotional eater. You name it, I probably was that. And in your work, you actually work with people who have emotional eating, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Can you actually describe maybe like some core strategies you help to assist your clients break free from emotional eating patterns?
Yeah. Most of my clients, and I was one of them big time, I work with women that struggle with
Mm.
sugar cravings, sugar triggers, and emotional eating. In other words, they start the day out really great with the best of intentions to eat healthy, and they wonder why at 4 o'clock later or 7 o'clock later, they find themselves falling apart. They're really frustrated by that. I was one of those people not knowing what I was missing. So in my own pathway of healing from chronic dieting and all of the restrictions and becoming more of an intuitive type eater, I was also able to lovingly examine my own emotional eating tendencies And I developed, and I talk about this in my book, The Diet-Free Diva. I talk about this in step number 3 with the mindset work of doing what's called a personal inquiry, where we just start to gently, in our own loving voice, nurturing voice, ask ourselves some questions about what's going on, what we're feeling, and what we really need, and what we can do to meet our needs. That's really the antidote for emotional eating. And I became so passionate in this particular realm of my work that I developed and I share this with everyone, a free, a download. I made an audio. It's about 10 minutes long, and I walk you through how to think and how to breathe to ride the wave, because you know that feeling when a craving and a trigger's coming on. But a lot of times, and I was stuck on this for so long, I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't know how to meet it and understand the signals. It was trying to tell me something. So our emotions are like little guideposts, but that's really difficult if we've never learned how to do that. And I was one of those people. So I developed a 10-minute, all you have to do is put your headphones on and listen to me talk you through and help you breathe through. I ask questions, I guide you in certain ways so you can figure out what you really need, which helps you stay on track with health goals and having good energy. And it took me a while to create this, but I'm so proud of it. And I'd love to share this with your audience. I think there is a link here that my assistant sent you. And this is really a challenge, emotional eating / stress eating, kind of the same thing. When you start to feel like you're coming apart at the seams, like nervous system dysregulation, and you impulsively want to grab food to either fill up on energy, to find relief, to cope, to soothe. There is a way out of that. But the harder that we restrict and diet and whatever flavor of dieting and restriction is out there, when we reach a point where we are, there's something asking for our attention, and food feels good. It really does. It was meant to feel good and provide pleasure. But when we're using it to avoid unwanted feelings or unwanted emotions or change our state, it becomes an unwanted challenge. And this is probably one of my favorite areas of work, because I struggled with this for so very long. And if anyone's, if I kind of feel like if I can get on the other side of emotional eating and impulsively turning to food to cope and numb and soothe, anybody can, because I was really at the throes of that for so long.
Wow. And what a beautiful listener's gift for our audience today. So make sure I will definitely have that in the show notes. And please, I mean, that's awesome. And breathing helps so much. That's so awesome that you'll guide them and then talk to them and then breathe with them. And then they'll probably have some clarity, like, you know what? I didn't need that. Or, I'm feeling something else right now. Maybe I'll go ahead and do something different than eating this, whatever it is that they're about to eat that they didn't want to eat.
Gina, I'd like to give an example. This was me for a long time, and I can't believe I'm saying this on your show, and I talk about this a lot. There was a time in my life where I would end up in the drive-through at Dunkin' Donuts at like 4 p.m. when I was finished with my clients. I was working in exercise, and I was so tired. My body was tired. My spirit was tired. And I believed I wasn't working hard enough or making enough traction or whatever it was. And I would get a box of donut holes, and I would go and park my car where nobody in the community would see me. And I remember eating these donut holes thinking, someday I've got to figure out a solution for this, but right now I just need it. And I look back on that with such gratitude, because we need to be able to hear these very real stories. And when I share some of my own personal, highly, formerly shameful experiences with food, it opens a door for somebody else to say, gosh, you know what? Like, I understand that. And we don't need to be ashamed of this. And there is a way out. So if you would have told me as I'm sitting there with my box of donut holes that someday, Tracy, you're going to be on Gina's podcast with your emotional eating rescue meditation that you've created to get people over that hump, I would have been like, wow, because I needed that then. And I really wanted to make something that really helped people. That wasn't something crazy that didn't make sense, but to learn to develop a voice inside. My emotional eating meditation helps other people develop their own voice. They start by listening to me, but that helps them to develop their own. And that is sustainable. And that will lead them down the pathway of life where they can escape the shackles of whether it's sugar or flour or chips or salty or whatever it might be, whatever they're using to medicate and soothe and numb. There is a way out, but we need to understand it. We need to get in there and understand that first.
Yeah, that would have been nice if I had that meditation back in the day. It reminds me of my story, my personal story of when I was in the vehicle outside a familiar liquor store that I frequented often, and literally drinking vodka. And it was, I think I was trying to mix it with some Coca-Cola. And I just knew I was sick of, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I just had my breaking point. I was like, that's it. I need help. I cannot do this alone whatsoever. And just 2 weeks later, I wound up in the hospital with pancreatitis. It truly was a blessing in disguise. The doctor did warn me sharply. She was like, Gina, you're going to die within 10 years if you do not quit drinking alcohol. Then me, of course, I thought about my two young boys at back then, 2017, age 2 and 9 years old, thinking, can I seriously leave them motherless? What is going on here? And I didn't have any mentor. I didn't have any coaches or nothing like that. It was like me and God. It was like, okay, and my spirit and my inner spirit, whether you call it the Holy Spirit or whatever your beliefs are. For me, it was my inner spirit. And I was like, you know what? It's time to change. And that's the day I decided. I left the hospital, went back home to there was a bottle of vodka there waiting for me. I was like, nope, done. I detox in the hospital. This is a new start for a new life. And I was so grateful. And this is within 20, so about 6 years ago. What a transformation. That's when I started getting coaches. Those
Mm.
coaches, I love coaches. Okay. So thank you, Tracy, for being who you are and helping the world out there. They literally help you. And trust me, I've gone through therapy. Therapy is great. Of course, if it's for you. It wasn't for me. AA wasn't for me. 12-step wasn't for me. It was really helping me with my mind. I had a lot of limited beliefs. I had to overcome a lot of childhood trauma. And I had to learn who I am as a spiritual being. And that's what she helped me do. And she was also fitness expert. So I got like the best of everything. I was like, oh, thank you. So an answer to prayer, truly coaches are amazing. And I really wish I had that guidance back then during that time. So I'm just so glad that you have this tool that people can use now and then hook up with you then afterward, be like, you know what? I love this so much. I think Tracy can go ahead and help me change my eating habits and make me get out of that diet mentality so I can live happier, more fully and freely in life. So yeah, thank you for that.
Gina, thank you for sharing your story. It's fascinating. It really is fascinating. And I'm personally loving the God moment that you had. I had a rock bottom God moment of my own with Ben and Jerry's ice cream. And the older I got, the less and less I was able to digest and to recover from all of my binges that were secret. And so I was working very hard on my personal training business, and one last binge on ice cream, and that was it for me. I'll never forget it. So like you, well, I had like the fitness girl ego, like I should have all the answers and I'm gonna figure this one out, but I was going about it the wrong way. I hired my own coach. And before I hired my own coach to help me with this, I remember God coming in, and I just felt it. I just felt like he was saying, Tracy, um, can you listen to me now? Because you've been doing your own thing for a long time. I'll never forget it. And I just felt this. I literally felt like I removed my hands from something. I said, I'm in, I'm out of tools. And I just felt like I was dying. I did. And he guided me toward the coach. I did get some therapy in there at the same time. And I met a community of people that understood me. And it's amazing what that connection will do and what your own coach will help you with. And like you, I had a million limiting beliefs. I kept starting over doing the same thing, starting over doing the same thing, thinking this time I'm going to try harder, something's going to be different. And it wasn't, but I believed that. And I didn't know how to break that down. And I went through childhood stuff and all of that as well. And that's where I landed on the 5 steps to peace and freedom with food and body without restrictive dieting. And I just had to type. So I started typing and writing as I went through my own healing. And so what you said about getting a coach is there's really power there, because we don't know what we don't know. And a good coach is going to ask someone the right questions to help them find their solutions. I don't tell my clients, do this, do that, eat that, eat. No, no, I help them make those decisions in a very loving and compassionate and patient way. That's what good coaches do.
Yes, it's so true. And like I said before, like with the whole therapy, someone asked me, like, what's the difference between a therapist and a coach? I said, well, this is my personal opinion. The therapist will help you get through whatever you were going through in the past. The coach is like, okay, where do you want to go? Let's go. Let me help you get there. And combination is good too. I don't know. It depends on the person. But like I was telling you before, I really didn't nothing stuck until that coach came into my life, and she was a mindset coach and also fitness yoga expert. And so I had mind, body, and spirit. That's where I got my whole concept of the shine process for myself. And on the side note, my mentor, shout out to her, Electra, by the way. She always told me, keep shining, keep shining, keep shining. And that's why I have everything shine, shine within, shine, 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 shine. So I know if I can shine, if Tracy can shine, you all can shine. We all can shine. We have that collective consciousness where we are all one. And we just need to get this message out there for everybody, because you can do it. If we did it, if we struggled, Tracy and I, you're not alone in your feelings. You're not alone, period. You have coaches, you have source, God, whatever your beliefs are, you have it. You just got to call out and ask for help. Once I asked for help, because I thought one of my limiting beliefs was, if I ask for help, I look weak. No, it is such a sign of strength, and you'd be surprised how much help you would receive once you ask. It could be friends, family, whomever, it'll just come to you. Your inner guidance too. I swear. I just get so excited talking about this topic because I know people's potential, and I look at somebody and I see what they're capable of doing already. Like I don't even see what they see for themselves. I see who they are truly as a spiritual being. I'm like, wow, you're amazing. You're even incredible. You can do this. Wow, wow. Like I see their all of their good.
It really does take someone reaching out an arm, like, hey, let's chat, let's have a conversation, let's just get vulnerable together and just talk about real challenges here. That's one of the things that made me close my personal training business and move into this line of work, because I think that people, especially with weight loss, they think, okay, I'm going to go hire a trainer and I'm going to work on this and work on that. And I didn't want to be a part of that. I mean, exercise is wonderful, but it's one piece of holistic wellness. And I wanted to help at a deeper level, like what you're talking about, Gina, with limiting beliefs and the whole mindset that nobody's talking about. I wanted to be that agent, like how I got help. And it's really quite fulfilling to walk somebody through just by asking them questions and having them ponder, because I see them going deeper and deeper. Then when they find those solutions, there's so many breakthroughs there that can pave the road for a sustainable solution to whatever the issue is. But being able to trust someone and to share vulnerability and safe space is so important. It's so important. And, I actually considered going back to school and going into therapy. I'm like, maybe I need to be a therapist. And the people that know me well said, Tracy, you're a coach. Shift what you're doing, but you're a coach. You're not a therapist. You're going to hate that. I have a friend who's a therapist. Said, Tracy, you're going to hate it. The world needs you to be a coach. So what you said about, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because there really is a big difference between therapy and coaching for very, very good reasons. The coach is that person that helps you find your solutions, but gives you that nudge of challenges that asks you to go just a little bit deeper and is there with you to work through all of that. And it's really, really powerful. And it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Yeah, and if you could just go ahead and elaborate on how you actually integrate the whole mind, body, and spirit into your wellness programs.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. Well, first of all, I talked about my book, 5 Steps to Freedom with Food, Body, and Self on One's Own Trusted and Sustainable Terms. The 5 steps. encompasses the mind, body, spirit trifecta is what I talk about in the book. And I shared step 1, which was, let's talk about your food story. Let's discover it. Let's write about it. Step number 2, I help my clients get clear on who they are and their values. We really need to go deeper with ourselves to determine what really hits the spot for us in terms of what's important to us, not what it should be according to the world. So we really spend some time on that. Step 3, I talk about 2 voices that we have within. We have this inner critic, we have a bully voice, and then we have an inner nurturing, almost like a loving parent coaching voice that's available to us. And we talk about how to notice both and how to evoke that I'm going to be my own coach now. I'm going to recognize when I hear myself going into some criticism. We spend a lot of work on that. And I also talked about that personal inquiry where we can learn to do a check-in, to learn how to attune to our real needs without using food to cope. There's a lot in that step 3. Step 4, we talk about the whole thing with food. And I don't do any food programming because I'm not qualified. I'm not a dietitian or nutritionist, but I help my clients figure out what they want to eat. So we do some really fun work with that. And we talk about moving our bodies and some other healthy habits. We were meant to move. The body was meant to move. It thrives on movement. And we break down what can be scary about exercise. Step number 5 is the toolbox. I call it the toolbox, where we talk about habits, we talk about thinking about habits, and we also talk about strategies to go out there in the world. And like I talked about the special glasses, how to block out your neighbor Betty's doing intermittent fasting. She's at Weight Watchers. She's doing, vegan. This person lost 30 pounds, and how to stay in your own lane of focus and also navigate a foodie society. And also learn how to implement your favorite treats. So we stay out of that land of deprivation. So that step 5 encompasses all of it. And I talk about this aspect of stepping into a queen, stepping into our intuitive wisdom as queens, where we start to trust our own instincts about how we want to show up in the world and what our purpose is. And the reason I named the book, Gina, The Diet-Free Diva, really speaks to the spiritual aspect, because when we break free from restrictive dieting, this is what happened with me. I discovered, gosh, I was giving away so much of my energy toward starting again on Monday. It takes a lot of energy to restart a diet. It takes a lot of energy to fight with food. And when we find solutions for sustainability and get to a happy meeting where we intuitive eating, where we trust our decisions with food, now we have leftover energy to go out and do that thing that we do well, that's been on the back burner until we lose the weight. We get out there now and start living on purpose as the queens that we were meant to be. So that fully encompasses the mind, body, spirit trifecta of healing from chronic dieting, healing from emotional eating challenges, and getting on the pathway to living an abundant life with grace and with confidence and knowing who we are.
Oh, I love that. Sold. Sold. Yes, get her book. Oh my goodness. I love the title. Yes, diva. What does diva mean to you? I love that term, diva.
And I love that question. I love that question. I get that every now and then on interviews. I think it's really powerful, because I'm not a diva with regards to, I don't really wear high heels very often. I'm not really big on makeup. I don't wear like flashy clothes. When I think of diva, I think like Mariah Carey. I'm showing my age, on stage, or Beyonce. And what I mean by diva, we all have an aspect of diva. And that means we are showing up in life. We're confident. We show up with grace. We're able to get along with other people, and we know what we stand for. And we've broken down the fears that show up when we're at war with food and body. And we're doing that thing that we know we do well. We're doing that in our life now. We all have an aspect of diva that comes out when we break free from chronic dieting and the war with food and body. So diva is essentially doing your thing and doing it well with all of that leftover energy that is recaptured when we find peace and freedom with food.
Yes, your inner diva. I wonder if there's a podcast called Your Inner Diva.
Probably find it. Yeah. Thank you for asking me that question. So it doesn't mean like flashy, but I had to go with hot pink on the cover.
Oh, yeah.
Because it really is every woman out there listening, rocking your best self, living a purposeful life. That's what is meant by Diet-Free Diva.
Beautiful. I love that. And I also have that link to your book in the show notes as well. Audience, please also get her book. But for our listeners who are inspired and definitely want to work with you, where can they go ahead and contact with you?
Yeah, wonderful. The easiest thing really is my website, theholisticdivas.com. And at the top, you can see where you can contact me. You can see my social links, all of that. There's a space where you can book a call with me. So it's right there on my website, theholisticdivas.com.
Beautiful. And lastly, for someone who actually is just starting on their journey towards holistic health, what would be the first step you would recommend for them?
Oh, I love that. The first step that I would recommend, because you asked me about holistic health, I would say, what is one thing that you can do right now that will help you feel good? Just start feeling better. Just like what you said, Gina, you go by how you feel. So the first step is quieting the noise and asking yourself, what is one thing that I can do right now that will help me start feeling better? It might be to just start drinking water all day long. That's going to help you feel better. Can do a lot of great things to help you feel better. But starting to think like that, what's one thing that I can do right now that will help me just start to feel better? That's my answer.
And I love that answer because people think they have to do a million things all at once to make them feel better. No, it's just that little baby step. Say, let me try this out for a little bit. Okay, I love this. And then, like, okay, let me try this other thing out for a little bit. Oh, I love it. And guess what? It becomes part of your daily routines. So, and then you find joy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, you just nailed it.
Beautiful. Was there any last words or thoughts you'd like to share with us, Tracy?
I just want to say thank you. This has been a lovely interview, and I encourage everyone listening in to start to trust your intuition with what you know is best for you, whether it's with food, whatever it is. It's so easy to catch on to what the world expects of us and what the world says is admirable. And when we buy into that too much, we really disconnect from ourselves, and everything is here. And that's one of the big things that I learned is, gosh, I can trust my own intuition now. It feels really good. And I want everybody to just, if you're not sure about that, just sit with the thought. Can I start to trust my own intuition in the decisions that I make on a daily basis and see what happens?
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Tracy, for being on my show today. It's been such a fun conversation, and I cannot wait to get this out right away.
This has just been fantastic, Gina. I'm really, really honored to be on Shine Within and to meet you. So thank you.
Likewise.